Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Ask the Experts webinar, Producing Sports Like the Pros. I'm Lenny Nelson from VisRT, and on today's show, we will be sharing the experiences from experts who've developed successful sports media production programs. Whether you're a small school, a large district, a college, or a university, today is about showing you what's possible. Now, before we begin, a couple little details. This webinar is being recorded for on-demand viewing, so don't worry if you miss something. We'll send you a link after this broadcast. Today's session is also an interactive presentation, so enter your questions in the Q&A panel, which we'll be monitoring throughout the show. If I see a good question in there, I'll make sure to get it in front of our experts as soon as possible. We will also have a couple polls throughout the show, so when they pop up, choose your answer to help guide the conversation. So, now let's get to our experts. Joining me today is John Munoz, who started a sports production team from scratch at Alamo Heights High School here in San Antonio. John, thank you for joining me today. Tell me a little bit about the program that you started.
Sure, thank you, Lenny. Appreciate it. Happy to be part of the conversation. So, Alamo Heights Independent School District is a small district in San Antonio. It's about 1,500 students at the high school. We have one middle school and two elementary schools. Right around 2020, 2021, we got a campus rebuild in the stadium, and we got a lot of equipment and was big investment into the video board in the stadium. And we started a team actually and started small, did an after school team, and that developed into an actual classroom. We started out doing home games, just broadcasting on the video board, and then that quickly developed live streaming. Then we started doing other sports and other events. So it was pretty successful, I would say.
Very cool, very cool. And also joining me from Cimarron, New Mexico is Harold White, Director of Broadcasting for Cimarron Municipal Schools. Harold, thank you for joining us today. Now, earlier today, you told me you come from a smaller school. How does that compare to John's?
Well, to say we're a smaller school compared to John's is an understatement. Our entire school district is geographically very large. We've got kids who ride buses for an hour and a half each way every day. We've got about 300 kids in the entire school district.
Oh, wow.
Our high school only has about 90 kids in it. The program here, the broadcast program here, started about 20 years ago with a teacher that was here back then. They started out very small. They actually did some really cool things. They had wireless cameras before wireless was cool. And when I came in 2019, that teacher had retired and things were kind of in disrepair. I originally got brought in to sort of get things back up and running for them and see what we could do. We got that whole project up and started, and a lot of the equipment was just out of date. And so we bought into an original TriCaster 425 Plus and a 3-play. And then this last year, we shot for the moon and put in for as much gear as we thought we could pull off successfully, and purchased a brand new system all the way around. And so we're pretty excited about that. We have both middle school and high school kids that participate right now, as well as a couple of community volunteers. So it's been a lot of fun watching these kids grow and watching this process grow.
Very, very cool. Okay, so thank you guys for joining me today. It's always nice to hear from people who actually use these products in the field. My first topic today is some basic elements that every production needs, right? Based on my experience as a video producer here and as an avid sports fan, I would like to watch it on the weekends, but I'm also a parent who sat in the bleachers and watched my children participate on the fields. When I watch these shows, there's kind of the 5 things I consider important to putting together a good production. First of all, you're going to need some cameras, right? So you got to capture the action. Number 2, once you have more than one camera, you're going to need a production switcher of some sort. And then to add that production value and really help tell the story, you're going to need to add data-driven graphics so you can get the scores and the clocks and the timeout information on the screen. And nowadays, people are so conditioned to watching good sports production. Instant replay is a necessity, so you can go back and relive those amazing moments. And finally, routing. You know, the most important part, I think, getting the video out to whether it's the arena and the video board in the arena, or the live stream that someone's watching at home, or through highlights on social media or on-demand viewing. You got to get it in front of the fans. So, Harold, obviously you're sitting in your control room there. tell us a little bit about what you've got in your in your control room there, and a little bit more about how this program got started there.
Sure. We just, like I said, recently upgraded to a Vision, which surprised me that we were able to buy into that level of quality production for the price point that we did. We were very excited about that. We've also added PTZ cameras because we're such a small school and a small school district. I don't always have all the kids that I'd like to have. And so we've invested in some PTZ cameras. So one or two kids can literally come in here. One of them can direct and switch, and the other one, for three kids, I can run 5 or 6 cameras that are all remote. I can have a replay machine, and I can have a director TD that can get the broadcast on the air. We distribute both onto a screen into the gym. We also have 2 screens in our cafeteria area that we then send the signal to, so people that are in the cafeteria can see the game while they're having a snack. And then we also live stream, and that's probably our weakest point at the moment is the live stream. It's tough for us to monetize that because our audiences, frankly, are just incredibly small. Our village is only 900 people, and so for like YouTube, you got to have 1,000 followers. We don't even have 1,000 people in town. So that's a challenge.
Yeah, that I can see that being a little bit difficult. Now, John, when you were starting up your program, what were some of the goals that you guys had set out that would be considered a success?
Yeah, it was a little bit different. We had a very successful football team with the equipment that we had. My immediate goals were to build a team. Usually when you go to a football game, you have your cheerleaders, you have your band, you have your ROTC. With the equipment that we had and the personnel, I had a couple of students that we did morning announcements. They had some familiarity with TriCaster. I had a sports background. I immediately saw more than just putting something on the video board. I wanted to do a live stream, and I knew we had that capability. So that was my initial goal, was to create that new experience, create a team that actually had students that go to a game and be a part of that whole Friday Night Lights in Texas.
Very cool.
So we did that, and I also wanted to create a class, and we were successful in doing that. So that first year had just an after-school team, and then the next year we had an actual class that kids would get credit for, and kind of treated that like a JV and varsity team. So those were my initial goals.
Okay, good. Now, for all of my audience watching, you're going to see a poll pop on your screen. It should be popping up any second now. And this is just a quick check to see where you are in your production journey. So take a second, put your answer in there. And while you're doing that, I'm going to remind you once again, if you've got questions for our experts, please put them in the panel, in the Q&A box there. This is so much of a space for you to hear from us, but it's also so we can hear from you. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit, gentlemen. Equipment is obviously important, but ultimately, good production comes down to the crew, right? In education, in your situations, that's filled by students, right? Rather than highly qualified, well-trained professionals. Harold, can you talk us through how you train your crew, your students, what kind of curriculum you may use to get them broadcast ready?
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool that John mentioned about starting a class. We actually have a production class. At one time, we had 2 sections of it, depending on how many kids we had. But we also offer it as a dual credit college class through Eastern New Mexico University. And so kids come in, we basically start them out with a basic production curriculum that comes out of a couple of different textbooks, a lot of hands-on material. And then once we've had them in the program, like when they're middle school kids, we don't isolate them to anything, but we use middle school games that we also live stream. We use those as kind of our training ground. That's where you get to practice things that you're not so familiar with. And then for varsity games, then you can move into, the areas where you've really developed a skill. And we've got some students that are very much proficient in those kinds of activities. Like we've got a young lady who is a very good director. We've got another one who's mastered the 3-play. I've got a young man who thinks handheld camera is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and so we let them play to their strengths as we're doing this kind of stuff. But the curriculum is basically an adaptation of what the university is using for their basic and advanced television production. We just tailor it to fit our needs, which are live streaming of sports and special events.
So following up on that, to prep them for success, do you standardize the workflows? Do you have things documented very clearly? Like stepping in on a game day, how do they have clear jobs? Like what kind of steps do you take to set them up for success?
The thing we do to set them up for success is play to their strengths for varsity games. We use the middle school games as the opportunity to experiment, to try something new, to try a skill you've never done before. One of the things we have sort of a progression. If you think you want to direct, you have to TD a couple of JV games, then you direct a JV game. After you've directed 3 JV games, you're eligible to TD a varsity game, and then after you've TD'd 3 or 4 varsity games and shown you can do that, then we'll move you up to director for a varsity game. And so there is a progression, and the kids do try to pass through it. Some of them just aren't interested in those things, and they stay where they're happy.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, my next question to add on to this for John, how do you deal with this, the turnover, right? Every year, kids move on, graduate. Hopefully, they go on to have some success after school, maybe go on to start study live production in college or something like that. How do you deal with, you have this all-star director, all-star producer team that you've trained up for 4 years, and then they're gone. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I treat it a lot like a team, a JV team, and then a varsity team. So definitely with the class, I was able to put them in groups and then have them have some certain assignments, some people on the cameras, setting them up, some people on the actual TriCaster, on the 3-play, as Harold was saying, and having somebody sitting right next to them doing maybe a freshman game and kind of seeing that go through that whole process and how the whole production goes on. Maybe those kids that are sitting next to the varsity members aren't even in the class, so that when they do come into the class, they're well prepared. So that's kind of how I approach that challenge.
So it sounds like almost like a mentorship program where the seniors teach the juniors and freshmen and sophomores, right, so that they can fill their seats once they've graduated. Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead, John.
And a lot of times during the game, when people are in the stands watching the live stream, and once we had a following, a big following actually on YouTube, the kids that were at the elementary school or the middle school, they would come up to the stadium and look into the control room and see our students actually working, doing the production, and then so that kind of created an excitement for the kids to kind of take that class once they got into the high school.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, moving on, guys. We've kind of talked about getting the basics of a production ready. What makes live sports such an engaging experience beyond what's going on the field or the court is the way that sports producers have used data-driven graphics to share information about what's going on the game. As a fan, you get a better grasp of what's going on in the moment. You can know how much time's left. You know the score, sort of the consequences of the moment, I call it. John, at Alamo Heights, how did you guys use graphics?
So graphics was extremely important. I mean, once we had all the VizRT products in place, we knew that a commentator and graphics were the things that I needed. Initially, we did not use Flowix. I didn't have that knowledge that even Flowix existed. So I would have the kids actually make the graphics. So we would make the graphics in class. They would have bundles created for the whole season. We would take headshots of some of the students and kind of animate it. The athletes, and animate it. So when they made a touchdown, that animated graphic would come up as you see in the NFL games. So that took a lot of prep work. But now knowing about Flowix and how easy that is to integrate into the TriCaster, that integration and having templates set up, I wish I could go back and kind of use that. But that's definitely available to schools that are watching now, people that are watching the webinar now. That Flowix graphics is a game changer, I think, in the production.
Cool.
Yeah.
Harold. Obviously, you guys are upgrading your systems there. How are you using graphics during your broadcasts?
Well, we started out with live text, and we're using that very successfully, and we really enjoyed it. It worked really well for us for what we were trying to accomplish. And now we've just got into Flowix, so we're just now learning about the capabilities of it. One of the challenges I think I mentioned to you guys when we were getting ready for this is that our current scoreboard only outputs XML data, and FlowX requires JSON, essentially a JSON stream in order to populate it. And so we haven't found a good workaround yet. So we're using some old school video camera, shooting a scoreboard, putting that up on the screen to get us through while we figure this problem out. We also have a brand new scoreboard going in starting on Monday. So my understanding is that does put out the new scoreboard will provide the data stream that we need, and we'll be able to integrate the full FlowX thing. Replays are a huge thing for us. I promise you, we're probably the only high school in New Mexico that's doing full-blown replays, and we definitely are the only school doing them in the gym right now, which has been very cool for our fans and our visitors. We even catch kids from visiting teams watching themselves during timeouts as opposed to listening to their coach, which I think is kind of funny.
Very, very cool. That kind of brings us to my next topic that I wanted to do was talk about instant replay. That's a really big wow factor. You know, we've all watched sports on broadcast for years and years and years, and that's essential to helping tell that story and replay those amazing events. Now, when talking about student athletes, so Harold, you had expressed to me earlier that there was some challenges you met with that, specifically some rules about what you could and could not show with student athletes. How did you overcome that?
Well, the number one thing we've done is we don't show kids getting injured. If a kid gets injured, there's no replay of it. If they're on the floor being treated, we'll find some other shot to show. We just don't show kids while they're in that vulnerable position, if you will. We don't want to create any anxiety for anybody, but we also don't want to focus on that. The other thing that we do is we don't re-show controversial plays. So if we think there was a foul that got committed and they didn't call it, or we think the foul was wrong, we don't focus on that. We focus on other things about the sport. And that the NMAA, the New Mexico Activities Association, does have rules about replay. And we've been incredibly careful and worked with them in order to not get ourselves into trouble and not get them into a position where they want to prevent us from doing what we're doing. We also have a plan to use our old equipment to become our new feed into the new scoreboard, and that will allow us to bypass some of that if we choose to.
Very cool. Now, John, what are some other ways that you guys might have used replay? It's not just for the instant replay in the moment and slow motion and that, but a replay system's always capturing the video. Did you use it for creating highlight reels, that sort of content, or archiving?
Yeah, once we had, like I said, the equipment that we had was very powerful. And when the kids looked at the 3-play system, they were a little intimidated. But once they got into it, they were able to see a lot of things that we could do, just more than just the obvious replaying the games. We made highlight reels. It was really easy to catalog whenever a player would make a play. They would catalog it by their number, and then later retrieve that number and create a highlight reel for the students. During the game, the athletes, during the game, we could record some crowd interactions and then play it back during a game. We had catalogs that we were easily be able to create, and some of the coaches at the end of the year would contact me and say, "Hey, can you put this together?" And that was really easy to do with 3-play system.
Very cool. One thing I always appreciate is when you go to a live sporting event, especially if you're in the venue, the downtime that regularly happens is somewhat, I can imagine it could be boring, because it's usually for television commercials, right? But the work that the crew does to get the audience engaged during those downtimes is quite exciting to me. The shots of the fans and getting them dancing and that sort of thing. Those always amuse me. Did you guys try to do that kind of stuff as well?
Oh yeah. I had a whole bunch of those just cataloged. Not only that, in between the quarters, like those kids could easily put in the first half or first quarter highlights, and the kids, the audience was able to see it on the video board. The player of the game, we could easily pull that up at the end credits, and they could see it play out. So yeah, very powerful. Made us look very professional.
Very
cool. Yeah, we use a lot of replays during the breaks in between quarters and the starting going back in at halftime. The kids will save up things that they think they want to show again, and also being able to show multiple angles of things. We had a kid here just recently who scored his 1,000th career point, and so we showed, which is an accomplishment in high school for a high school kid. We showed that from multiple angles, both at the end of right after it happened, but also at the end of the quarter, and then again at halftime. And so that was cool to be able to give that kid some recognition for a hard-earned accomplishment.
Yeah, probably an awesome moment for him. All right, now I'm going to move on to our next poll. This should be popping up on the screen. I can't see it as a Zoom thing, but I want you to enter your choices in there. And while you're doing that, I'm going to remind you once again, we got some good questions coming in, so put your questions in the Q&A panel, and I'll get them answered here in just a little bit. But now the next thing is the difficult conversation. It's something that's always nobody wants to talk about, but it's the money, right? This can stop a program in its tracks if you don't have the support to get the funding for the acquisition of equipment and space. Obviously, there are significant costs to starting and running a program, but there are also great opportunities to prove that this program can provide great value as well as a good return on investment. So I'm going to start with you, Harold. How did you engage your administration to get behind your program and get you some funding to get started and get behind it?
Well, it's when I first came in, I was brought in to specifically tell them, what do you need to take the next step? And so the first time around, they were already bought in. I didn't have to do anything. The second time around, this last year when we did this, I took the approach of the answer's no if you don't ask the question. And so I submitted 5 purchase orders totaling a little over $120,000. And like 4 days later, I had 5 approved purchase orders and thought I'd died and gone to heaven. And so we were able to do all sorts of things. Next year, we've got plans to upgrade audio. And then, of course, the scoreboard was also another. The scoreboard being replaced was another thing that totally out of the blue, never expected to have happen this year. Next year, we've got plans for additional development, both for the in arena as well as expanding our capability to one of our middle schools, the one here in town. So it has been, the ROI for us has been what we're able to provide to the community because we do cover such a huge geographic area. And that's probably been the one thing that's made it the most easy is I've had really good support from the school board. The members of the school board are totally fired up about providing technology opportunities for kids. And we do just that. We give them all sorts of really cool things to brag about around the state.
Very cool. Yeah, so the ROI is not just in the event itself, but the value provided to as part of the education as well as community pride. Very cool. John, going to you, I'm coming from a bigger district. What were some of the things you did to generate income?
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things for me when we started. I saw lots of different ways to make money. We had a really big video board, and at the bottom we had like actual posters that you can see with the ads. But on top of the board, you could run lots of different ads that are our sponsor ads, or even during, not only on the video board, but during our live stream, we could sell ads, maybe a title sponsor to a game, first quarter recaps, we could sell those, halftime report, we could sell those, a replay stinger that a graphic that shows up every time a replay is made. So all of those things were opportunities for us to bring in revenue and sell those to the local community. Our district was a very supportive district, so reaching out to the community businesses, they wanted to jump on it quick. And as soon as we saw the viewership and the product that was put together really well, they definitely wanted to give that money. The other thing that you could do as a class is to create a website, get our name out there, show them what we're doing. And the community will give donations just to continue that product that you have and to grow the actual team. So there's just lots of different ways that you can, at a high school especially, that's brand new, and there's just a lot of money on the table that you can grab with the product that we're putting out.
Very good. So John,
Lenny?
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
One of those things that we're in the process of expanding those financial opportunities here. And one of the limitations we always had was we were never sure we were going to have enough students. We never wanted to promise anybody we would do something for them and not be able to deliver. Well, now that we've got this new remote capability with PTZ cameras and some of those kind of things that we've integrated into the system, our plan is to go out and start, selling ads and selling sponsorships and things of that nature, because now we believe we can meet those requirements because of the technology that's at our disposal, which we were not able to do before. So that's been very cool.
Okay, so Harold, just tacking on the end of that, besides the sports events, what other types of productions do you guys get involved in? Is there, graduations, news media, anything like that?
We do graduation. We do every year they do a veterans program here, incredibly large veterans program and veteran community here, and we cover that live and stream that. We also do a couple of band concerts for the band director here. This band here is a state championship band like the last 4 years, which again for a school as small as we are, that's pretty cool to be that caliber of musicians. And so we have a lot of opportunities for that. We also have every year they bring in some sort of guest motivational speaker for the students, and we live stream that event. We've never had a guest speaker tell us no, but we live stream that event as well. So we do get an opportunity to share other things that the school is doing that are not athletic driven, but are academic or culture or things of that nature. And it's very cool to give those kids the opportunity to cover those kinds of things.
Very cool. Now I'm going to ask one more question on top of that. Besides the productions itself, there's always these other values that they provide, and you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier about community awareness, community pride. Do you guys experience any of that?
Absolutely. Last fall, our girls volleyball team was in the state championship round. And the kids I told them we're going to go down and watch it on a Promethean board in one of the other classrooms from NFHS. And we got down there and we're watching it. And one of my kids that's been with me for a couple of years turns around and looks at me and goes, "We do a better job than this. And this is the state volleyball tournament."
Right.
And I said, "Well, yeah, we do, but it's a different world where they're doing their thing." And they're playing, at the pit or someplace like that, where being able to do what we do here compared to that makes these kids feel incredibly good about themselves. It gives a great deal of pride in the community. And we hear back from the coaches that travel and fans that travel. People love coming here because they know they're going to get to see a really cool television show as well as a basketball game or a volleyball game. And those are really the only sports we have up here besides track and cross country.
Very fun.
Yeah, Lenny, just to add on to that, we had a system that was on campus, but as the years grew, as I mentioned earlier, we actually took that entire setup and took on the responsibility of doing football away games. And when we took that responsibility on and the students started to get really comfortable with the equipment and take it and set it up we did the entire season, that really opened up opportunities for us to go out and do live events for the community. So we actually had a really big partnership with our rocket science class. Alamo Heights had a rocket class, and we did a live streaming event where you could see a lot of schools. I think the system, it was called Systems Go, and I took my team and we live streamed that whole event. So different things like that, orchestra, band, concerts, because we were able to be mobile, we could put those live events on.
Very cool. One follow-up question is, is there a time when the program becomes more of an asset rather than an expense? Like, was there a tipping point? About how long did that take to get to that point?
Well, in our community, it was an asset from day one. People were super excited about it. And the more we've been able to bring to the table, the more we've been able to do, people are 100% on board with what we're trying to accomplish here. And I've not heard anybody who's ever said, "What a waste of money," or why did we invest in that? All I've ever heard is these kids are doing an amazing job. And I always talk about it as the kids' production. I should also add, we have a couple of community volunteers who come in. We have a teacher who is a former basketball coach who does play-by-play for us. We have a deputy sheriff that played basketball here as a young man. He now comes and does color. I've got a couple of other community volunteers that come in and run camera or replay when the kids aren't available. And so we've really expanded our reach, not just to the support of the kids, but also the support of the community outside of the obvious money and things of that nature.
Very cool. Okay. Now, before we get to our Q&A, we're going to do one more poll here. I'm going to lean to the side here because I think my face got covered on it. But while you guys go ahead and put your stuff in there, I do hear that we had a little bit of an audio issue. I do apologize for that. We'll do our best to deal with that. Another thing is I do have one quick question. There's this school sports producer that I know, and he's really, really respected. And he said to me, always make a show that mom wants to watch. When you're dealing with schools, student athletes, always make the show that mom wants to watch. At this level, your audience isn't going to be in the millions, but most of the people watching are going to be the parents that want to see their kids. So if you can make them happy, you've done a great job. So Harold, do you have any expert wisdom like that, which you might want to share with us today?
Well, definitely. I think one of the things that helps us out is like I said, we don't show injured kids and things of that nature. We also know that we have an international audience for our broadcast. And the reason we know that, we had two young men here that played a couple of years ago. Their father is originally from New Zealand, and their family in New Zealand were watching games at like 3:00 in the morning, New Zealand time. Wow. Well, they've never left. They're still here, and their kids have been out of school for 2 years and 4 years, respectively. So we know we still have people watching in places that we never imagined, and they're watching live, which is pretty cool. And as long as we keep telling the story of those kids, family members from all over the country and the world will tune in, and we hear from them in the comments and things of that nature about how excited they are and how grateful they are that they get to see a child play a sport that they would never get to see in person because of our remote nature.
Very cool. Now, John, do you have anything similar?
Yeah, I think I guess there's a lot of people watching right now. Maybe some of them are schools, maybe some administrators that want to build a team like this. My advice would be, think about somebody that is passionate about putting this product on or putting this team together, because they don't need a lot of requirements as far as knowledge. I think VisRT does a really great job of providing resources that they can learn. So I'd say, think about who that person is to drive that and the sustainability of it. And you can start small. You can start maybe one camera and a switcher and then kind of build from there. I think all of the systems and the user interfaces kind of integrated and work together with Flowix. And we even talked about NDI, but that really allows you to expand your team and your production on a bigger level.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll talk about NDI probably in a future webinar, but today we're going to just really focus on getting good stuff out to the audience. Okay, so we're going to transition to our Q&A now. You guys have been putting in a bunch of great questions, so we're going to do our best to answer as many as we can. So first of all, this question's for you, John. This guy, somebody, oh, here we go. This gentleman's in Robstown, outside of Corpus Christi, so he's here in Texas with us. He says, we've been live streaming for a couple of years. We're looking to upgrade our video board at our football stadium. Do you guys know what kind of video board you have?
Oh, I don't. Let me think. I don't remember the brand. Like I said, the school purchased it, and I think they had that big video board along with the TriCaster. They kind of bundled it all together. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the brand of the video board. No.
Harold, do you know what type of video board is being installed at your school?
Yeah, we currently have a 15-year-old Nevco, and we're about to replace it with a brand new Nevco. We went out in competitive bid, and they provided the best bang for the buck, and the dollar amount was right where we wanted. I'm a big fan of Daxtronics, but the price point was just way too high for us.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, now that you said Nevco, that's exactly what it was, a Nevco. They're killing it.
Okay, yeah. Good. My next question here says, this question's for both of you, so we'll start with Harold and then we'll go to John. It says, how many students work a game? I think we covered this a little bit. And what's the maximum capacity, and what are some of the roles that you have them filling?
We currently have 6 kids, and like I said, a couple of adults that volunteer out of the community. We have a director, TD, a replay, 3 or 4 camera operators, depending on how many kids show up. And I do know in advance whether they're coming or not. We communicate quite closely with their parents to make sure we know what kids are available. And then if I had my druthers and could get everybody that I wanted, I'd have somewhere between 12 and 15 during a broadcast, so I could have a dedicated audio person, a dedicated graphics person. We do not have those today because we just don't have the bodies to fill those positions. So a lot of our audio is not as clean as we would like it to be, and our graphics are, if we can't automate it, it doesn't happen because we just don't have the individual to take on that as a responsibility. But 12 to 15 would be ideal. We do it with anywhere from 6 to 8.
Wow, 6 to 8. How about you, John?
Yeah, we had like 20 kids.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a big team. And during the production, I had about I had 2 cameras on the field, one big high 50 camera, and then a camera just kind of roaming. I put about 2 people on the field cameras, and then 1 person on the high 50. I had a person doing graphics. I liked to do almost 2 to each one of these groups. 1 person focused on graphics. I had a person doing the TriCaster, another person doing the 3-play with some, maybe at halftime, they kind of switched with their relief. And then I had students doing commentary as well. That was a tough one, but I was fortunate enough to, like Harold said, we had a very knowledgeable teacher. He partnered with me. He did a great job showing the kids how to, do a commentary and a play-by-play. So, yeah, we had a really big team.
Very cool. Now this one's going to be another question about your students running the events. Do you need to be there with them? Are they able to run it without an administrator there with them, or basically, do you trust them to get the job done, or do you feel the need to be there for every event?
You got to be there. you got to be there. Yeah, absolutely. They're kids. They have a great time, and in the beginning, you kind of set up those protocols. And in the beginning, there was a lot of work to try to get them comfortable, but there was certainly. I got to a point where I stepped back, and as Harold said before, my goal was always to have it be student run, but to get them to a point where they're comfortable to do that. But there's going to always be things that come up that an adult needs to be there to make sure that they're keeping them on task. They have the systems all set in place, and they put the work in so that eventually you can have it. And then you always have a student that maybe is responsible, and they take that leadership role just like any team. And then you kind of meet with them and then tell them to take over as the captain.
Yeah. How about you?
It's funny. I've kind of relegated myself to being the engineer on the production. So I fix the problems when they come up. I answer questions, but I totally trust these guys to run this thing by themselves, because I've had 2 of them that have been with me for almost 5 years now, between middle school and high school.
Wow.
And so those 2 girls, they're actually twins. Those 2 girls can run this whole thing on their own. I'm here for them, but the school also requires me to show up because you can't just have a group of students hanging out without a teacher around.
Understood. Okay, now I got one of these advertising questions, because again we gotta figure out how to pay for all this. It says, although monetizing YouTube may be difficult for a smaller audience, would it be possible to have paid sponsorships integrated throughout the broadcast? Like, for example, selling an ad space next to the score bug, ads during the game, replays, things like that, sponsored moments?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that you definitely want to build in and make sure that it's reliable. If you have companies that are putting money into this program, you want to make sure that those fire off and they're played. So you practice with your team beforehand. And as I was saying before, Flowix makes that very easy to integrate into TriCaster.
Yeah, Flowix does. It does make it. Yeah, how about you, Harold?
Yeah, we're moving in that direction. Like I said before, we've had some challenges with the number of kids involved, and so we've. I won't say that we've shied away from monetizing, but we've definitely been careful about it. This last fall, we got the local civic club agreed to sponsor T-shirts for the kids, and so. All the kids now have a couple of long sleeve and a couple of short sleeve shirts that say Rams Broadcasting on them, and the logo of the sponsor on them. And they wear them to every game. They wear them to school now, so it's kind of a cool thing to sort of spread that word. But we're in the process of monetizing those elements of the game that we can automate, and trying to get ourselves into the position, like I said, to make that happen. The monetizing live streams for us, because we're so small, is just a challenge.
Right. My next question is so going back to some of the equipment acquisition and such. When you're looking to add new features, new functionality, or a new system into your workflow, do you work with a system integrator or a channel partner or something like that to acquire the equipment and then integrate it into your control room or facilities? How about you, Harold? You're going through this right now. How does that work in your district?
Well, because of our remote location, I'm the integrator. I work with. I actually have been teaching kids how to install equipment. So I've got some kids now that have built network cables. They've built video cables. They're learning how to solder audio cables for various applications that we need. I've got a great relationship that goes back more than 20 years with a couple of vendors that I have purchased with in a previous life. And they provide me with quotes. They ship everything to me. They provide tech support if I run into something I don't know. But yeah, I'm the integrator installer, and it can be a little bit of a slow process, but it's also something that I'm comfortable doing. And frankly, in this day and age, I think anybody can figure out how to do it.
Yeah. How about you, John?
Yeah, same. So when they installed all of the equipment, I was very interested in it. I mean, I had the athletic background and the tech background. I taught computer science and robotics as well. So I was heavily involved and had that relationship with the person that set it up. So I've had lots of calls that I made to them just to develop the program and add on to it. But I think VizRT has a great number of partners that people that are watching right now could reach out to, and we'll probably give that information at the end. For those that maybe don't have that experience or knowledge.
Very cool. Now, my next question: have you guys explored any monetizing the streams themselves? For example, going through a platform that does charge for the viewing.
Harold?
We've looked into it. It's just, from our standpoint, it's just cost prohibitive. The last one we looked at, I want to say, was like $400 a month. I don't have enough viewers. I couldn't charge enough viewers to cover that $400 a month. And our athletic budget cannot absorb that cost because they're still, they're struggling just to get people here to come to games. And surprisingly, the number of people who stream games while they're sitting in the stands is staggering. We can see them on the network and we can see what they're watching. And that, to me, that's just crazy that they're literally streaming what they're watching and seeing on the screen in front of them 50 feet away.
Very cool. Very cool. As a follow-up to that, obviously, when you start doing streaming, the computer and IT network becomes part of your pipeline, your distribution and routing. How do you interface with the IT at your school?
So I had a really good relationship with our IT guy, and we worked really hard on setting everything up. There was one point where we had 3 groups of students doing 3 different broadcasts, and that was capable with NDI. So we had all of the camera feeds going to the network. One group was doing the video board in the stadium. Another group were taking those same feeds, doing our YouTube broadcast, and then another group were taking those same feeds and doing a local news broadcast. We were sending our game out through KSAT. So that was definitely, made possible by working with my IT guy at the school. And I think every school has one, so they have that capability. They just need to, tap into it.
Very cool. Here's one. This is more of a in the game moment. PTZ cameras are very, very useful. How do you use them, Harold? Because you just said you're getting some. How do you use them for fast-moving sports like basketball? Sometimes with a small crew, it's hard to get somebody focused on controlling the PTZs with only one operator. How do you make sure you don't sort of lose that action or the ball's moving faster than the camera can go?
Well, the same rules that I tell kids about running a camera when it's on their shoulder or on a tripod. Until you get really good, stay a little bit wider. You can work your way into a tight shot, but if you miss the action, you miss the action. And so we use PTZs that way. They tend to be a little bit wider than we might normally be. The other thing we do is we use a lot of presets. So For example, we got a camera hanging underneath the basket behind the backboard that we can shoot a kid shooting free throws. So we have 3 or 4 predetermined shots that are programmed in there. All they have to do is recall them, and boom, we've got a tight shot on the kid shooting. We've got a wider shot on the kid shooting. We might have a shot off to the left half of the court or the right half of the court, or whatever we've set up as these presets. And we do that for all 6 of the PTZ cameras that we have. So sometimes it just comes down to a recall as opposed to actually having to follow as much. And they're not our primary cameras unless they have to be.
Very cool. Here's another quick question. As far as like pre-show prep, right? So obviously a lot of work goes into pre-production so you can have a good show. Just as a teaching moment, how early do you have the students arrive, say, before a game, just on a regular game day?
I had kids show up about an hour before the game, just because it was an event. Just like I said earlier, with cheer, band, cheerleaders. Cheerleaders, everybody that's going to the football games. We would show up, we'd have dinner, we'd go over the plan. Kids would get in place. We did test runs. So yeah, we showed up a good amount of time.
We average between an hour and 30 minutes. A lot of it depends on how many games we're doing. Because we do middle school and high school, for example, last Saturday we were scheduled to have broadcast 8 games over that Saturday afternoon. The snow ended up canceling that, but we would have done 4 middle school games, 2 JV games, and 2 varsity games. So it's a very long day for the kids, and so I have them come in 30 minutes early on those days. But an hour normally. And a lot of times they just stay after broadcasting because it's the last period of the day. They'll just hang out here until we're ready to go. And we use the class time and that interim time for them to get food and to prep whatever it is we're going to talk about getting ready for the day.
Yeah, very cool. Here's one question that I do always, it's one of those things I'm always interested in. In a live event like you've got there, Harold, you've got the in-venue stream that you're sending to the video board, right? And that's going to be, is that different than what you send out on the live stream? Or do you do the same feed to both? Or do you treat them as sort of independent audiences?
We actually do a separate feed, and we have for quite a while. Our live feed that goes out to the cafeteria, to our announcers, and to our live stream has the graphics included. The stream into the gym does not, because the scoreboard is 8 inches away from the edge of the screen. And so rather than being redundantly redundant, we just allow them to watch the scoreboard for that information. And
do you run that all out of the same TriCaster, or do you use separate systems?
We're currently running it out of the same TriCaster, and our plan down the road is to use our previous TriCaster to just be our in-game entertainment. And we're actually going to we're working on training some people to handle the in-game entertainment aspect of it off of that second TriCaster, where one of the inputs will be nothing but the live stream, and all they'll have is the ability to do extra inserts and almost like a split broadcast, if you've ever experienced one of those, where you're using the same sources to go to multiple places like John talked about.
Yeah. And is that just for my own question, is that done so you can make more positions for people to work at, just to give more students opportunities?
A little bit to give more opportunities, and also because we are in that situation where so far the NMAA has been incredibly generous to allow us to do replays. We don't want to jack that up. We have hosted state basketball games, tournament games, as well as the division games for playoffs, and we don't want to lose that capability because we're not doing something they want us to do.
Yeah. Okay. What I was going to say next is thank you guys for this great bit of questions. We still got quite a few that I'm not going to have time to get to. There is one question that I wanted to ask Harold one more time. Obviously, you've exhibited yourself as an expert in this. You know the saying, like, if I had $1 every time someone asked me that, what's the question that would have made you a multimillionaire by now?
Why I was willing to sacrifice so much of my time and talent to get involved in this originally, and then what I get out of working with the kids. I get that asked all the time because I'm not a full-time teacher. I'm a contractor as a subject matter expert. I do have a teaching certificate so that I can be here at the school and teach the kids. But I do get asked quite a bit why I spend this time, and the answer is really, really simple. Early in my career, people invested in me, and if they hadn't, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And so I feel obligated to give that back, to pay it forward to another generation, even if they never follow in my footsteps, to at least give them the opportunity to experience something that's brought in a tremendous amount of joy to my life.
Very cool. And John, any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Ditto, man. That was a great answer. I'm going to go with that same one. He covered it really well.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, this has been a great discussion with you guys. So I want to just go back over those 5 things we talked about at the beginning of the show. What are some of the things you need to do to be successful? Start with your cameras. Get multiple cameras. Then go to your switcher. Add your graphics, add your replay, and then start with your routing and distribution so that your audience can see it. And what's remember is you can always start small. You don't have to have everything right off the bat. Start with a couple cameras, then start switching them, and then add everything in as you become more proficient. And making it interesting for the audience to watch and engage those students in the program. Harold had a great line here when he said his student looked at him at a state level competition and said, "We can do it better than that." It's not just about the athletes and the fans. It's about also creating a great experience for your students and giving them steps so that they can go forward in their career and become, the next generation of broadcasters out there in the world. And that's a really big investment that you guys put in there, and that's really ambitious. And I'm happy to hear about all these stories. So, thank you guys for joining me today. This is obviously, as I said before, this has been a great discussion, and I hope you've gained some thoughtful insight there in the audience, and into what it takes to start a successful sports media program like these guys. If you're ready to get started on a program and take the jump to the next level, VizRT has some exciting bundles of production tools out there for you to get started. We're going to put up a QR code here, and what I'd like you to do is scan that so you can learn more about the solutions that we have to offer, including live switching, graphics, and instant replay. These packages are designed to deliver broadcast quality live sports coverage with simplicity that can be easily operated by student crews. Now, if you also want to learn more about what VizRT has to offer, I would invite you to visit our website at vizrt.com. And once again, if you've missed anything during today's show, we will send out a link for on-demand viewing very soon. Also, if you put in a question and we didn't get to it on the show, we're going to follow up with those as well. I would like to take one moment and thank 2 people who've done a really good job today. I'm going to ask my production crew to put their camera on in the studio here in San Antonio. So that's Crystal and Richard, and they've been in there working hard to make sure you guys could see and hear everything. Thank you guys for that. I'd also like to thank my 2 guests, Harold and John, for joining us today. Gentlemen, it's truly great to hear your stories. And with that, thank you for joining us and watching today. Thank you for all your questions. We'll have some more webinars in the very near future. And with that, thank you and have a nice day.